We've got a legislator in Wisconsin. Here we go again. Representative Bob Gannon. Gee, I wonder if he's going to be wrong again. So he wanted to talk about the East Towne Mall shooting. Now, the shootings are happening so frequently, I had to look this one up. It happened this past Saturday. Another shooting. A bunch of people shot. A 19-year-old hurt in the shooting. Luckily, no one died. No one died? Don't even talk about it. Not even close to national news. So, but he's pissed about it, and he's got a culprit in mind. Now, we looked up right before we went live on air here to see if the police had caught the person. They haven't. If they had any more information about who he was, the only thing the police said that it was not terrorism related. So we know the guy who did the shooting wasn't Muslim. Right. So that's about all we know. But Bob Gannon's got a lot of theories. He says Wisconsin does not have a death penalty law, but with significant practice and careful aim, law-abiding citizens can help clean our society of these scumbags. Okay, so now, right now, he's just referring to them as scumbags. A guy who does a shooting in a mall can fairly be described as a scumbag. So I'm not disagreeing with that part. First of all, I'm disagreeing with the part of don't shoot him. You're in a mall. I know you all think you're Dirty Harry, but you know what's going to happen? You're going to pull out your gun, and you're going to say, I'm going to get the bad guy. I'm going to get that scumbag. And you're going to fire, and God knows who you're going to hit. So we've already started to hear reports of people doing this throughout the country. We did that story of a lady who pulled out a gun in a parking lot because she thought she saw a shoplifter and started shooting in the parking lot. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then the very next week, a similar story. A guy pulls out a gun in a parking lot and starts shooting. Don't shoot in parking lots and malls. It's a terrible idea. Don't listen to idiots like this loose Gannon. So now, later we're going to find out who he thinks these scumbags are. But first, let's keep going in this direction where he's obviously promoting vigilantism. He says, criminals no longer have any fear of our courts or our prisons, so it's time that the citizens of this fine state stand up and fight back. Come on, man, you're an elected official. Don't encourage vigilantism. That's a terrible idea. But they all think that they're, at the OK Corral, and this guy fancies himself Wyatt Earp. So he's just talking about what he'd love to do. Oh, let me get in there in a mall with an active shooter. I interviewed this guy back on the Current TV show. And he's still a gun activist and enthusiastic. And he had an active shooter. He's just a citizen. But he had a gun with him. He was licensed. He was right to carry it, or at least legally. And he had an active shooter in a mall. And he decided to engage him instead of retreating like everybody else was doing. He missed. And then he got shot and paralyzed. Don't do it. It's a super sad story. There's no need to encourage people in that direction. Let the police handle it. Okay. Now we get to who Bob Gannon thinks might be at fault. He says, gangbanger in the mall with a gun is going to think twice if there could be a law-abiding concealed carry weapon holder standing behind them, fully prepared to shoot center mass. The word gangbanger is not an accident there. So how often have Republican legislators described white shooters as gangbangers? Not that often, okay? So he's pretty sure that you need to have a gun in case these gangbangers come after you in a mall. Now, again, I don't know who did the shooting. I mean, apparently Representative Gannon thinks that he knows better than us. And I'm pretty sure if you pressed him on it, he'd have a theory. Okay. Now, and no matter what he thinks about the race of the shooter, it's a bad idea any way you slice it. If the shooter is white, black, Muslim, Martian, stay away. Going closer to bullets is generally a bad idea. Now, Representative Chris Taylor, who's a Democrat from Madison, Wisconsin, thinks that this is also a bad idea. And I like what she said, so I wanted to read it to you. She said, Representative Gannon is living in a James Bond dream world. If more guns made us safer, we would be the safest country in the world. We should be making guns like the one used at East Towne Mall more difficult to obtain for those who abuse the law. It's just a simple point, but it bears repeating. How come we're not safe yet? We have more guns per capita than any country in the world by a landslide. Somalia comes in at a distant number 2. By the way, they're also not very safe. If guns were the answer, we already have the guns. We have the answer in ample supply. Yet we're also one of the most violent countries on earth, and we have the most gun homicides per capita. So how come guns didn't solve the answer? It didn't solve the problem if they were the answer. maybe, just maybe, they're not the answer, they're the problem.